Welcome to part 3 of our podcasting session in collaboration with Israel Story and the Israel Networking Hub. I'm Leslie Kaplan. Thank you for joining the series. It's been a fabulous series to date. And today we have the amazing Liat Toby, who's going to be presenting for us. She is involved in marketing and business development for Israel Story. So she's going to show us the important part, the very important part of how we can get our podcast heard and how we can get it across to more viewers and anything else that she sees is necessary for us to know. So I'm going to remove my spotlight and I will focus on you, Liat. Thank you for joining. And of course, to Zev, who's here and who has been an integral part of this as well and who presented the first 2 parts of our series. Take it away, Liat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. So hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. We've reached our last session and we're going to talk about marketing today. So I want to start with the presentation. So what we're going to be talking about today, I have a bit of a summary just of what we've been speaking about until now and how we're going to be moving forward. So in the last 2 sessions, Zev has spoken with us about finding our identity and story, differentiating ourselves amongst the others, and finding our audience and creating and editing our podcast. So we're going to be moving forward from the point where we have a podcast that we have recorded, we've edited it, and it's ready to be published. And from here on, we're going to be talking about how to market and how to actually have our podcast be shown to as many people as possible on as many platforms as possible. So we're just going to be moving straight into the marketing part of this presentation, and we're going to be starting to talk about strategic packaging first. After we already have our episode, we've published it, we've got it on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, everywhere we want to, and now we want to start actually marketing it. So what we're going to do is a few things. What we have here is, first of all, we want to package the episode the best way we can and before we start to publish it on social media. This presentation specifically is going to be mainly about social media and organic marketing, meaning obviously any post or any piece of content that you create, you can add and pay to have it published for more people, but I am going to be focusing on organic just because that is the basics, and then whatever piece of content you want to use to pay for it to reach more people, you can do that, and that is completely up to you. So we're going to start with the first 30-second hook. So what we're going to do is we're going to take pieces of our episode into small pieces, and we're going to make sure that we keep it intriguing, meaning we need to understand that many listeners decide within the first 30 seconds when they start listening to a piece, any piece of content, whether it's the podcast itself or a piece of content that we're trying to push on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or LinkedIn, wherever it is, they will decide if they want to keep listening within the first 30 seconds. So the word hook is big and no one really understands what it means. I'm going to quickly just explain that it basically means the first moment that makes someone wants to keep listening, right? The job is to trigger curiosity and emotion or surprise, whatever it is that we want to get our audience to feel, so they can keep watching the piece of content that we have. For example, I just wrote down a small example. So instead of writing episode 5 interview with a therapist, I would write something along the lines of why we stay in bad relationships, a therapist explains. That automatically triggers some sort of curiosity in our audience, the audience who is interested in this kind of content. The second thing I want to talk about quickly, and we're going to go into depth and detail into each one, is quickly just explain search engine optimization. So we need to remember that our audience don't know who we are yet. We're talking about the ones who haven't discovered us. These people obviously exist and they're obviously looking for this kind of content. So if, for example, I am a gym instructor and I want to find as many people who are interested in gym training, fitness, wellness, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to make sure that I use as many keywords as possible. So when someone types in Instagram or Google or Facebook, they type in wellness, fitness, training, whatever it is, they can find me because I wrote those keywords in my description or anywhere on my piece of content. So that is a big tool that we're going to be using a lot of the times. We're going to be tagging guests, we're going to be writing down our main topics and not just keep it Amalfi, Bonicalese. And the last thing is clear value promise, which means that today, because a lot of people's attention spans are quite low, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are showing the audience what we are going to be talking about before we even start, so they know what to expect. So rather someone going in the first few seconds, listening and then saying, oh, this isn't for me, or we promise something at the beginning and then we don't deliver, just like Zev spoke about when an episode can go on for 45 minutes long, where we could have summarized it. When we talk about clear value promise, we're talking about how we want to explain to the audience what will they gain from this episode. So it can either be learning something new, or it can be hearing a powerful story, or understanding a topic better, just going into depth into a specific topic we want to talk about. So those are the main keys we want to remember when we start publishing pieces of content regarding our podcast, our episode that we just published. So distribution and platform optimization. So we're talking about a few things here. Uploading to all relevant platforms, just like we said, different people listen in different places. So the more platforms we're on, the more listeners we're going to gain and the more followers we're going to have. Optimizing keywords, just like we said, we want to understand what our audience is searching for. So if, for example, we want to talk about, just like I said, let's take a different example. We want to talk about stress and work. Right? So if our episode is about stress in work, we're going to use as many key topics as we can in our description. So we will use words like burnout, and we will use words like mental health, work-life balance, work stress, as many keywords as we can, so whoever is looking for this kind of content can find us. If you have any questions, or if you want to stop me at any time, feel free. I'm just going to keep going and going. I hope that's
Actually,
okay.
I have a question here, Liat. So keep yourself on the screen. I'm not going to change the spotlight. But I have a question. My podcast is called Monday Motivation Spotlight, where every single week, every Monday, I interview a different inspiring guest. Okay. Now, I do in the tags and in YouTube and also on Spotify, I write in the description about the person and what they do and everything. However, the actual title is always the same, Monday Motivation Spotlight with, and then the thing that changes is the name of the guest. And then it says, and host Leslie Kaplan, and it gives the episode number. Should I be changing the title as well? Or is it enough that I use the description about what it's about or about the person in the description, but it's not in the actual title?
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. There's also, I have a slide about that, actually, about consistency and coming up with some sort of tradition or something regular that you do that your audience already knows you for, which is also very important. So having that as a title is also a very good thing. It really just depends on analytics. So if you already have a big audience and they know you for this and they follow you and they come watch every Monday, your episode, then it means that it's working and I wouldn't change it. Having it in the description, especially tagging the person who you're interviewing, is exactly what we're talking about here. So it seems like you're doing it correctly. It seems like it's working. If it wasn't working, then we would try and think of different ways how we can showcase this episode so it can get more followers and more views. But the way it seems, it looks like it's fine.
And also another question, I don't know if you're going to be talking about it later, but on YouTube, for example, it gives you the option to collaborate with somebody.
Right.
Okay. So should I be collaborating if the person that I'm interviewing has their own YouTube channel? I'm assuming it gives more. Can you talk a bit about that, what that collaboration does? I don't know if you're going to talk about it later, whether
Absolutely.
it's advisable
So
to actually, does it mean it's automatically, if they accept the collaboration, that it gets on their channel too? How does it work exactly?
I wasn't going to go into depth specifically about YouTube, but I do have a slide about, it's called audience borrowing, which is something that I definitely advise to everyone who's starting a podcast. One of the best ways to not start from zero and gain followers, is borrowing followers, finding people who we can interview, who we can host on our show, who have the same audience as us, who seem interested in kind of the same topics as us, and definitely, and then just exposing ourselves to a whole different audience who probably wouldn't have seen us otherwise. And definitely hosting on YouTube or collaborating on YouTube is definitely one of the ways. It's one of the tools. I do have a few other ideas that I've added into the slide, just
All right,
for
great. So we'll
inspiration.
continue. I just thought about when you were talking about the optimizing keywords, that's what came to mind with that. All right,
Yeah.
so let's keep going. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'm also going to show you how to find the best keywords for your field. There's a really good website. I have it on one of the slides. I can send over the slides to you. You'll always have it. Yeah, so I'll go on.
Right.
Like we said, tagging guests just strategically, just like we said, guests often share their episodes with their audience, which can definitely bring in new listeners and new followers and ensure discoverability, meaning making sure that your podcast is not just published, but it's findable. And that was what we're trying to say, what I'm trying to say on this slide, meaning key topics, summary, tagging our guests, optimizing keywords, all these kinds of things are what is going to help us be findable rather than just publish and hope that people are going to see us. So content multiplication. So what I want to talk about here is what we can do with our episode to turn it into content, and as much content as possible, so we can keep on marketing and keep on publishing about it for the next week or the next even 2 weeks. So here are a few examples of things that we can do. Firstly, short clips. So short clips and reels, basically currently the main discovery engine on social media. So when people are looking for anything new, they're going to be looking on short videos and reels. So that is something that we really need to take into consideration, meaning we're talking about the vertical on Instagram, on TikTok, on video, on YouTube Shorts. We're talking about the short videos. That is actually where the main discovery engine is on social media. We can take a short piece of our episode, between 30 to 60-second moments. For example, we can take a surprising insight, or if someone had an emotional reaction to something, if they were shocked, if they burst out laughing, if they started crying, if someone said a very powerful quote during the episode, all these things, even a strong opinion, even if it's controversial, people love it on social media. So any strong piece of content that we have that we can put into 30 to 60 seconds and publish it as a reel is one of the best ways that we can use discoverability and have more people find us on social media. We have insight posts, which is basically turning podcast ideas into posts, as in taking either a picture of us while we were talking on the episode, or just writing down a quote using Canva and then posting it and writing a few words about what was going on the episode, add a link. That kind of stuff also really works. We have carousels, which basically means, I don't know if you've seen, but on Instagram, usually there's people take 5 pieces of content, as in 5 images, and then you just scroll around them like a carousel. So it can either be things like 5 things I've learned during blah, 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 or a story going on in 5 phases where people scroll and read them, or anything like that. Those are carousels. Quotes was just like I said, we take a simple quote, we turn it into a graphic, we upload it. Newsletter obviously is something that if we already have an audience and we have a list of emails, definitely sending it out and telling our audience to go listen to our episode is also one of the tools. And behind the scenes content, which is very underrated, but behind the scenes, anything that shows us to be a bit more human and who we are and our regardless. Okay, so let's just nase posedo, because I know that when it comes to podcasting, we want to make sure that we have the identity and we want to make sure that our content is the most important thing, which it definitely is. When it comes to social media, though, who we are is a very big tool. So people like to connect with personality and character and just the little tweaks. So when it comes to behind the scenes recording, people love it because they get to know who you are. So if they see bloopers, if they see preparations, if they see you whatever it is, trying to film your camera and then it falling on the floor, they love it. That's the kind of stuff that turns us into someone who we can connect with, and then automatically people would like to follow because they just feel more of a connection with you. So that is also something that is definitely a big tip that I advise everyone to do. Content beyond the episode is basically, so we've spoken about what we can do with the episode and turn it into content. And other than just the episode, we can remember that we can also create content to upload on social media that's got nothing, like, that has got everything to do with the podcast, but not with the episode itself. As in, we're not taking pieces of the episode or clips or quotes from the episode itself, but rather just talking about our podcast. So we can make content. I've listed a few examples for you to take. Maybe they can give you some inspiration. So we can do a quick video on equipment setup. So we're literally just taking a video going, I'm so excited. We're starting to film our episode in 5 minutes. Watch me, and literally just put the camera on, and then they can see you connecting your mic, getting ready in front of the mirror, whatever it is. It could be 15-second videos, 30-second video, which is enough. And it's the kind of content that people really enjoy seeing because, again, they see your personality. And obviously, we always want to keep creating content to have our page, wherever it is, very moving and interesting and just bubbly. So we have here audience question and answers, behind the scenes of recording, pre-episode prep process, so we can see how you're preparing for the episode. So this is basically a list of ideas that you can take from and create content around your podcast. We have unpopular opinions about our niche, which can be a very nice video. We have breakdowns of books or articles, reaction videos, which go really well. So if you see a video that you can react to, publish the video and then react to it saying, I think this, I think that, I agree, disagree, I love the way they did whatever. What else is there here? Studio transformations. If we made any transformations, if we made any changes, definitely deserves content. And yeah, you can go through the list. I'm not going to read it all out. I don't want to waste too much time, but there are a few really nice ideas here. I'm sure you can take anything, you can take a few things and use them for your platforms as well. Attaching growth content to growth mechanisms. So what we're talking about here is, one second. So what we're talking about here is understanding that each piece of content can have a goal. So we can understand what our goal is, and then once we understand what the goal is, we can more understand what kind of content we need to create for that thing to happen. So for example, if we're looking for discovery, we want to help new audiences discover us. What we're usually going to do, just like we said before, reels and short clips are the best way for people to find us. So what we can do if we want people to discover us is short clips, reels, viral moments, any surprising quotes, anything that can bring more people to watch our content. Another goal would be engagement, which is when we want our audience to respond to us, to talk to us. We want to hear what they have to say. We want to understand if we're meeting their needs, if there's anything that they would love to hear from us. So usually that would be content that we do around asking questions or creating polls, or even during one of our videos asking, what do you think? Do you agree? Comment below what you think. Different things like that, where the audience can participate and actually respond, and then we can build some sort of relationship with our audience. A really nice idea I saw once was someone during their episode, I think it was like after 10 minutes during the episode, they said, whoever's still listening, just type an emoji of a camel in the comments so I know you're still with us. So I know how many of you guys are listening until this point. Right? So it's these little tweaks that, like, they spark up something, some sort of curiosity, and they cause engagement, because even if you're not the kind of person who does usually comment on episodes or on content, that kind of thing would make you feel a bit proud of yourself to be part of that group. So you would, like most people would, give that comment. I think so we're going to have to pause. Okay, so we were just talking about engagement, and we said we want to keep our audience. This is one of the goals that we have when we want to share content. Obviously, let's keep in mind that when we create content, we don't want to tick the whole list. We don't want to have one piece of content that is for discovery, for audience to engage with us, for shares, for retention, for it's not going to happen. So we are going to be very strategic when we create our content. And according to our goals, we'll try and push towards the kind of content that we want to create so we reach our goals. So we were talking about discovery, we're talking about engagement with our audience, and now we're talking about authority. So authority is to create a name for ourselves, right? Some content can help position us as a trusted voice on our topic. So usually when I say this, like there's a specific name that automatically comes to mind. Whoever it is, that is the kind of idea. There's always someone who we know that when we want to hear content about whatever it is, relationships, business, fitness, whatever it is, we always have that one person who we love listening to, and we will search his content or her content because we really enjoy, and we know that is a trustworthy voice where we like to learn from them. So that kind of content that we want to create that authority for ourselves would be bringing in experts on the topic, quoting from books and from articles and things like that, bringing in different perspectives about a topic. It could be things like just speaking in depth about a topic that we really feel passionate about. And also, something that's very important I want to add here is there's never too much content, as in we do want to keep videos quite short because, again, attention spam issues when it comes to social media. But if I created a video about how important it is to have an apple a day, I don't have to create just one video about that. So I can create multiple videos about this topic in different lights and in different ways, and even reuse the same video. I'm going to talk about this in the next few slides, I think. But if there's a piece of content that worked well for us, if usually, for example, we know that we have 5 views per piece of content, and then we have one piece of content that we uploaded and it had 100 views, we're going to reuse it. It worked. If it worked, we reuse it. It doesn't specifically mean that we take the same video and we upload it again. We can always change the title. We can always change the hook. So we can, instead of having the same video, we can do a tiny 5-second hook in the beginning, writing, this was the top viewed video last month. Let's see how many views it can gain. And bam, just upload it again. Use content that we know already works, right? That is on authority. Shares. Funny enough, we have likes, comments, shares. We have loads of different reactions that we can get from the audience. When it comes to shares specifically, shares is, you can see a lot of videos where there's not many likes, not many comments, but it's been shared thousands of times. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of content that we can come across where we feel the connection. We feel like there's something that resonates with us in this piece of content. So we won't comment going, oh my God, I agree, but we will share it to a friend going, it could be the funniest thing. It could be just a video of 2 friends bursting out laughing in a mamad, and then it says life in Israel, right? So you wouldn't share, like it or comment it, but you would just send it to a friend going, Eze matzchik, it was just what happened yesterday with us, right? So when it comes to sharing, that kind of content it has a different category to itself, but it's usually things that people resonate with. That's why, again, we're always going to go back to showing personality and finding your little quirks and your little like pieces of sense of humor, anything that people can really feel that they can connect with. I'm going to give the last 2 pieces, and then if anyone has any questions before we move forward, let me know also if I'm rushing, if I'm taking it too slow, if this is basic information, let me know how you feel about this. But I'm just going to quickly finish. So retention this is the kind of content for people who already listen to your podcasts, and we want to turn them from just regular listeners to followers. We kind of want to bring them in closer. So this is the kind of content where it's for our followers, it's for our listeners. So things like episode reminders, right? So, hi guys, I'm so excited. Next Sunday, new episode is coming up. Don't forget to check it out. Give me a thumbs up. Right? So this is specifically for our listeners. It's for our followers we already have, and just to bring them closer, turn them a bit more like into not exactly a community, but get to know you and feel a bit more closer. It could be things like community updates. So if there's any updates going on in our lives, if there's anything new coming up, it's usually for the listeners to know, usually for our followers to know. So that is a goal when it comes to retention. And conversion is basically a call to action. So conversion means I'm taking a piece of content and I want to turn it into something. I want this piece of content that I am creating now is for you to go listen to my episode. It's for you to subscribe to my newsletter. It's for you to tag a friend in the comments who you think will enjoy this. But there is an actual call to action on this piece of content, and that is the goal of this piece of content. Right? So this is a list of all the goals we have. And according to our goals, we will know how to navigate the content that we want to create for that to happen. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. I actually have a question for you based on some of the things that you've said, Liat. The last podcast that I did was an amazing one, an incredible guest, and I was able to get 7 different clips from it. And what I was doing, firstly, I uploaded them as shorts on my YouTube channel. So
Amazing.
literally, I just uploaded them yesterday. So they're starting to get views. My question to you is, when we're posting this on social media, I know that social media gives better exposure if you're not posting an actual link. So for social media, I posted the original clip recording, not the actual YouTube link. And then in the comments, I said to check out the other clips, and then I gave the YouTube link for the shorts, and I said
Yeah.
to watch the full episode.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the one hand, that's good. That's because it's getting interest and curiosity that people will maybe click for more. However, on social media, you're not getting those actual views added to your Spotify or your YouTube because you're having to upload the original recording.
Yeah, 100%. So that is something that we also need to remember, that on every platform, we'll have a different kind of audience and a different kind of following. So some people are very strong on TikTok and they don't even have a Facebook. And some people are very strong on YouTube and they don't have even half of their followers on Instagram. It's very different. And that is okay. That's fine. That's what we want. Because again, the more we expose ourselves on as many platforms as possible, the more people we can see. And then it's just חוק המספרים הגדולים. So if 10 people see my short and 1 click, that's the whole game. Because usually people who are on one platform don't want to leave to a different one. So usually if, for example, I am just scrolling on YouTube and then I have a link that takes me out of YouTube onto a different website, I wouldn't necessarily want to go there right now because I'm into scrolling. I'm enjoying my time on this platform. And every platform, as the algorithm, they don't want the person to leave. So YouTube doesn't want their viewer to leave their platform. The whole point is for them to keep you there, which is absolutely fine. And that is why we use YouTube as the tool. We use it as a tool, not to send someone out, rather than to keep you in, but follow me. So see another piece of content and another piece of content. And then maybe if you love me that much, you will look me up on Instagram for a second, or you will just press follow. Do you know what I mean? There's so many ways this can go, but we do need to remember the algorithm at the end of the day and use it to our advantage the best way we can.
Can I just ask a question about that?
Sure.
So if I understand correctly, what I normally do is I'll post something about whatever I'm doing on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever, and then I'll put, I think is what Leslie said, but I'm not sure, and I put the link for YouTube in the comments. Is that correct?
Yeah. You can put the link in the description and in the comments as well, which is fine. It's not a mistake. We just need to take into consideration that a lot of people don't usually go into not a lot of people, but people don't usually go into the links just because they want to enjoy the scrolling experience. So they want to stay on the platform. But that is the whole point. The whole point of marketing is to lure them and to intrigue them into actually clicking on the link. And that really just depends on how much content we have, how rich our page is, how much of we need to remember, I think I have a slide on this. I'm almost certain I do. But we need to remember that when it comes to the whole attention span experience, with the person who's scrolling, they need a promise, right? So no one wants to waste their time. No one wants to dedicate their time to listening to an episode or even watching a piece of content and finding out 6 minutes in that it's got nothing to do with their interest. So if we have a big page and it's full of content, it's very rich in content, it's interesting, it's engaging, it's busy, there's always something interesting and new going on, our audience will know that this link is probably something worth watching, right? So we're building credibility into this relationship with our audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just wondering about the algorithm, that I thought that if you put a YouTube link in or a Google link or something into the Facebook post, it will make your algorithm less good. If you put it in the comments, then it will be less of an issue.
So yeah, so that's what they say, but there's a lot of different like perspectives when it comes to algorithm, because no one really knows for certain. It's understanding as we go along. We know that, for example, a video works better than a picture, for example. So all these things are conclusions that we've come up with, trying to understand the algorithm, which always changes, by the way.
Right.
So yeah, so that is the whole idea of just trial and error. Just trying one. There's this thing called A/B testing in marketing, where we take one piece of content, we change something slightly differently and see what works better. So it's literally just an idea of trial and error, trying with the link, trying without the link, trying one in the comments, trying one out like on the title, wherever it is, and seeing what works best. But I can't really say, according to the algorithm, don't do this, because it's like literally the most viral and the most like the biggest pieces of content that worked were the ones that were so unexpectedly, they went viral so unexpectedly. So just never forget, always post. Whatever happens, just put it up there. It can work. It like the piece of content that you think would work the best probably won't, or sometimes won't, and the ones that you least expect will reach like more people than you expect, which is funny, but then again, that's the algorithm. We don't really understand it.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So yeah, one question I have. So yes, we have social media where we can put our shorter clips up of the main recordings as well as the links to the main recording. And YouTube, as I say, I use shorts for that. But thinking of Spotify or Apple podcasts, so those, is it correct that one only puts up the full podcast episode, not to put up clips in those platforms?
Yeah. On those platforms, definitely upload the entire episode. And there's not really too much room for marketing. Like marketing usually happens on social media, but there's not much content other than the full episodes that you can upload to Spotify, unless there's just more pieces, like, or cut pieces. But when people come on Spotify, they want to listen to full episodes. They're looking for podcasts, or they're looking for pieces they can listen to. They're not really advertisements. They're more the content itself.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Sure. Should we move forward? Okay, so we were talking beforehand about credibility and consistent tactics. So these are two short lists I created. I'll just say that this presentation is mainly just ideas, tips, anything that I can give you hands-on to use literally right now. Like when we finish this webinar, you can go ahead and start. So these are two separate lists. One that kind of gives you more tips and ideas on how to gain credibility and authority. And the second one is consistent tactics, which is also quite important. So when it comes to authority, just like we said, we have interview experts, we have book references, building a signature segment, which was something that we spoke about before. So anything that if, for example, when it comes to signature segments, we're talking about things that they could be the tiniest things, right? But they make you familiar for yourself. So it could be a jingle, but it doesn't have to be even that long. It could be just a tiny clip in the beginning of, I don't know, a ball bouncing or your logo or anything that can repeat itself so people already know what to expect. For example, we can take the best example I have is Disney, for example, where we know that every film that Disney begins, they have that keshet that comes over the tower, nachon, they have the magical palace, and that's it. So we're talking about anything that's recognizable, anything that can be consistent, and it's like a signature of our own, right? This kind of stuff definitely creates authority and credibility. Becoming known for something specific, again, is exactly the same. Creating content that is around the same nature, the same field, going into depth about our topics definitely is the kind of things that create authority and credibility. Consistent tactics is something that is mainly for our audience and gives them the promise that we were talking about. Our audience they love knowing what's going to happen. Everyone loves it when things are expected and they already know what's coming. So we can do anything from, like you do, I wrote Happy Monday, but can be anything. It could be Transformation Thursday. It can be Tip of the Week every Sunday, whatever it is. But it needs to be something that is consistent. We need to come up with an idea that we can be consistent with and give our audience so they know that this is coming. And this kind of brings them back. This is something that the audience always enjoys because they know that this is coming and they start expecting it and then they start looking for you. So we can do things like weekly guest month, seasonal themes. It could be around Chagim. It could be around just actualia and what's going on in the world. It could be around whatever it is, months or anything, basically. So we can do 30-day clip challenge where every day I'm going to give you a tip, or we're going to do something during the week. Like during the whole week, I'm going to give you something every week. Actually, right now on Israel Story, we have a story coming up. It's a 4-part piece where every day one piece is uploaded. So also doing tiny things like that is things that audience love and they really enjoy following. This slide is a quick slide that kind of wants to give you inspiration on how to expand the topics that you have and give you ideas on how to create more content on the topics that you want to talk about in different kinds of aspects. For example, I've just taken a big theme called marriage, and then we've broken it down to lots of different topics. So we have conflict resolution, we have funny relationship moments, we have money fights, love languages. All of this is topics that we can definitely talk about on our podcast. But what I did was after taking the topic dating after marriage, for example, which we've taken already from marriage, we can break dating after marriage into even more topics and then have an episode for each topic. So we can just keep breaking down our topics all the time. That is something that is super important. We don't forget because then if we don't do that, at some point we say, I've already spoken about this. What else can I talk about? We don't and then we get stuck and then we either have a problem creating content or we just go over the same stuff that we've already done. So this is a slide that is here to remind you that we can always break down a piece of topic. Like I can take from marriage to dating after marriage to why dating shouldn't stop after the wedding, and then break that down into 5 reasons why dating shouldn't stop after the wedding, or 5 ideas how you can date after the wedding, or whatever it is. But we keep breaking down our topics so we always have more and more to talk about, because let's not forget that when it comes to social media specifically, the videos are short. And that kind of gives us the opportunity to create a bunch of tiny pieces rather than one big episode. So that is just something to keep in mind and inspire you to maybe just create tiny pieces, because that is mainly what social media loves.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Yofi, I'm happy. CTA strategy. So this is basically conversion thinking, call to action. So when it comes to call to action, people think it ends in comment, like, and share. But this is a list for you guys to keep it interesting, to understand that there's more than one call to action. I would recommend always giving one or maximum two calls of actions to every piece of content, because no one wants to like, share, comment, send, go into the link. Like, no one is going to do all of that. So we're going to keep it simple, and we're going to go with between 1 to 2 calls for action on every piece of content. Some pieces of content don't even need a call to action. They can just be a funny piece of content of, I don't know, how I spilt my coffee this morning before I recorded my episode. We don't always need a call to action, but when we do have one, this is just a list for you to remember. It doesn't always have to be just like and share. Right? So I'm not going to go over it too much. I think it's quite, and definitely, and obviously I can send this presentation over to you guys so you can always have it. But join our community, follow us on other platforms, which is also a really nice call to action. Some people already follow you on Instagram, but send them over to Facebook to follow you there as well. DM me, send me questions. What do you want to hear about? What do you want to know? What was your favorite part about this episode? All this kinds of things is definitely a call to action, and never forget to add them as well, rather than just liking, which is also very important. But sometimes we need something a bit different and to stir things up. Collaboration and audience borrowing was what we started talking about, Leslie, before. So this is also a small list of ideas on how you can actually grow your audience by just tapping into an existing audience already. It's what we call audience borrowing, right? So instead of starting from zero, you collaborate with people who already have an audience who trusts them and who knows them and who follows the same topics, and then just getting on that wave and then finding your people as well. So we can do guest swaps, which is basically I come to your podcast, you come to mine. We'll do an episode. There's cross promotion, which basically means mentioning other podcasts in the episode, saying during my episode, when I'm talking on my podcast, I can talk about someone else's podcast and how they inspired me, or how amazing it was to watch, blah, 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 whatever it is. And then they can mention you back, right? So this is an exchange that we make in advance that obviously helps both of our audiences. Appearances, live sessions work actually really well. Going on live with someone who's from the same field as us and having a conversation, bringing up audiences and answering their questions live, doing a bit of a Q&A also works very well. Audience loves that. Partnering with organizations, events, communities, anything like that also obviously is under the category of audience borrowing, and definitely is something that can help promote our podcast as well. Relationship marketing. So when we were talking about our audience, this is just a slide just to give you a reminder on how important it is to really build a relationship with your audience. Podcast growth isn't really about reaching more people, rather than building really a community around the topic that you really have a passion for. The idea is to build a community, and once you have a community, that kind of grows within itself. So think of it as when every person has a video, a series that they enjoy watching, a podcast they love listening to, whatever it is, that kind of puts them inside a community they know of. So if I say, for example, I read Harry Potter, I know that there's like a Harry Potter club. I know that kind of says something about me. Not really, but, and then if someone answers me and says, I do too, we're sisters now. We have a different kind of bond. That is because we belong to the same community. Now, obviously, everyone takes part in millions of communities. It really just depends on how active the community really is. But the idea of saying that I listen to this kind of podcast makes me this kind of person. So it can be I watch football, or it can be I am a supporter of this group, or it can be I don't listen to the news. It could be anything that it really puts me in a bubble. And then relationship marketing comes in where we community as it. So we want to give the audience the space. So we're talking about inside jokes, and we're talking about phrases and traditions that we have inside our community, something that our followers and our audience knows about us. This is something that we do. So for example, there's a really funny community on Facebook. I don't remember the name, but their whole idea is the manager uploads a piece of content, and then the whole audience just answers in quotes from a friend series, for example. So it's just these kinds of traditions and inside jokes that we can create within our community, which really makes it more active and really makes people feel much more connected and much more, they feel they really enjoy being a part of this thing rather than just going on Spotify, listening to the episode and going on with their day. Okay, so do we want to stop for a second and see if we have any questions?
Okay, any question? I know I have one question, not directly to what you're saying, so maybe I'll let you continue and then I can ask that afterwards.
Okay, no problem. Okay, what else did I want to say on this topic? Yeah, we have replying to comments, DM engaging listeners, meaning if there's a listener that we know who regularly comments or likes our content, they would love for us to answer them. So always answering our listeners, engaging with them, spotlighting audience members is something that they love. So everyone loves to be mentioned by someone who they follow, right? So if, for example, someone has commented a question in one of our episodes, they would love for us to create a short video where we just take their question and we answer them directly, going, this question came from Leslie. She's asking, how do we keep up with blah, 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 and then answer. This is the kind of thing, the kind of interaction that our audience loves on social media. So definitely something to take in mind. Asking questions as well. Always asking questions is also one of the best ways to create a sense of community and interaction with our audience, meaning just, what did you think about our last episode? Let me know what you want me to talk about next. What was your favorite part of the series that we created? Anything like that is the kind of questions that our audience loves to answer and loves to take part in. And then we go from there to analytics and feedback, basically. So what we've done is we've created the episode, we edited it, we published it and marketed it. We created a bunch of content regarding the episode itself and content on its own. And then I would suggest between 2 to 3 weeks, just going over the analytics and understanding what episodes perform best, what kind of content did my audience love the most, what got the most exposure, and then just after we understand what happened and what worked best, then we just refine, adjust, and repeat. We go over the last 2 to 3 weeks. We had, for example, an episode a week. So we have 3 episodes. We have 3 weeks worth of content. And then we're going to see what kind of content worked best. What got the most shares? What got the most comments? What got the most questions? What topic was most controversial, etc., etc. And then we just move forward from there. We create episodes according to that. We create content according to that and move forward. Do we have any questions, Freddie?
Yes, I have a question. Everything you've said so far has been very interesting, but I have like a basic question here. So most of the people, I assume, who's on listening to this seminar are people who are not the rich and famous, okay? They're people like myself who have different reasons why they decided to do a podcast. Most of us, if we're living in the real world, know we're never going to be rich and famous from a podcast, but yet we still do it again. We have our own reasons we did it. I personally do a podcast, a solo. It comes out, I started once a week. I now do it about every 10 days. And it goes from 15 to 20, 25 minutes a shot. I think I'm up to episode 24.
Freddie, mention the name of your podcast for those listening here. Mention the name.
Take Two with Freddie. Take Two with Freddie. Freddie with a Y and 2, the number 2. Anyway, my question to you is, I know why I'm doing it, which is basically because I want to grow my brand, but I have no clue if I'm doing well. When I went to AI or Google, they tell me, first of all, 90% of podcasts don't make it past 20 episodes. So on that parameter, I'm doing great.
Yeah, congratulations.
So again, but Tachlis,
Yeah,
what is it really all about in the big scheme of things? Again, I'm trying to grow my brand. If I get one new client or help one person from it, I feel good. Okay.
amazing.
But obviously, I'd
Can I
like to
ask,
grow it,
can I
but
ask, okay, so you have a podcast already. You've created 24 episodes and you've published them, I assume,
yep,
on what platforms?
YouTube and Spotify. I
And then,
wanted to go onto Apple, but I still don't understand how to get on Apple since I'm not an Apple person.
okay, but other than YouTube and Spotify, do you use social media? Do you market
I
your
market on
episodes?
LinkedIn and Facebook. I every time I post, every time I publish a new one, I post it there. And then when I have the time, I will do some little teasers a couple of days before. That's
Perfect.
what I do. And when I have some subscribers, and when I publish, so again, I go to LinkedIn, Facebook, and I have a WhatsApp list where I send it out on. That's what I do.
Perfect. So, firstly, you're already doing it. As in, you already have the podcast, you already have the episodes, you've already uploaded them, and you're marketing them as well. So, what we're doing here, this presentation isn't for the rich and famous. It's for growing. It's for us growing. And literally, you have all the tools. So, you have already the Facebook page, you have the LinkedIn page, you have YouTube as well. And all of these are platforms where everything I said, when I said creating content, it's literally for these platforms. And what I'm trying to show you is what kind of content you can create other than just the episode for you to get more and more followers, which then will send them to your brand, which then can maybe change their lives just the way you want. So everything I said, from collaboration with people that you know, where you can bring them into the podcast and mention them and tag them as well, from showing yourself on like just a day-to-day life, and then showing behind the scenes of you trying to get prepared before the podcast. All of this is content that you can upload to your Facebook, to your YouTube, to your LinkedIn, to show who you are and create the audience that you want and create a community around your podcast and brand. Do you understand? So
Yes,
it's
let me
literally,
ask you one more question there because
sure,
you turned on a click here. I pride myself, and part of my podcast is it's very authentic. I'm speaking to
amazing.
my audience,
Social media loves authenticity.
and sometimes I will mention something, specifically a book,
Yeah,
where I have no skin in the game. I'll say, "Oh, yeah, I read it in this book by someone, great book. I strongly recommend it." Again, I do it just because I feel it'll help my listener. Is there a way to piggyback on the fact that I'm
definitely.
promoting whatever I'm promoting?
For starts, what I would suggest you to do is take a book a week and then just do a what's it called, like a hamlatza for a book, or
Reference,
even just reading
review,
out a
Recommendation
quote.
or reference.
recommendation.
Yeah, or even just reading out your favorite quote from a book. Every Sunday, have a 10-minute reading session with me, or a hamlatza shel hashavua, or you can do just read a book a week and then just tell them what you think about it. Give them like some sort of report, or tell them what kind of shifted, what in the book helped you shift your perspective a bit. Or you can do anything, but you literally have the book and you enjoy reading the books. Use that as content as well. Your
Yeah,
audience
I
will
think what
love
he's
it.
trying to say also is, can he piggyback on maybe the author of the book by tagging them in a post or messaging them and saying to them, before I quoted your book in my podcast, can I tag you? Maybe something like that. Can I
Yeah.
tag
So
you in a
what I'm saying,
post?
yeah, definitely and absolutely. So for starters, definitely we can start with a something that is kavua, like once a week, once a month, every Monday, whatever it is. And then definitely tagging the author if you know them, or even if you don't, just tag the author. You never know. Some authors would really appreciate it, and then they'd reshare you on their platform, which can bring some of their audience to come and see you. All of this is definitely tactics to help you grow your community on your profile, on your platform, definitely. Absolutely. So
I
tag.
think too, Liat, is that if that's the case, that we are mentioning someone in an episode and tagging them, someone that doesn't know us, then in the description to actually write, oh, and I also mentioned about the book. In other words, that they know you're not just tagging them, but you mentioned them. So maybe they'll listen to the episode to hear where you mentioned them, and then they'll be okay with it.
Of course. So we can definitely add in the description, just writing this week's book, blah, 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 by this and that author. I love this piece. And then just adding a few words is definitely something that you can do. I 100% agree. I feel like all of these slides and everything that we've spoken about today, there's definitely something that you can take from them and then just implementing them onto your platforms to help you grow. Definitely anything to do with even just videotaping yourself and adding them every day, like just creating a reel around your podcast or around your brand, asking questions, being a bit more active with your audiences and commenting and replying to them, taking quotes from books or ideas from books and talking about it in your next episode, things like that, definitely something that can help you grow.
Okay, and I have one last question, which you may be covering soon. Can you give us a little bit of a take on what I noticed when I look at the analytics of the different platforms, there's all different phrases. And if you could just cover them a little bit and say, what's the difference between, I don't even remember now, but when I look at Spotify, there are 3 different things, and I don't really understand the differences between them.
Are we talking about like shares, likes, and comments, things like
No, not shares, like, and comments. Let me, if I can get it up real quickly here. They'll have, hang on a second.
I'd like to suggest also, besides Liat maybe answering that, is that we can use AI a lot for that as well, to ask us what the difference between the different things are.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So AI definitely has answers to different, like the social media kind
Like
of
here they
things.
have people who receive, people you reached, who showed interest, and people who consume. What's the difference between people who showed interest and people who consumed?
So usually people who show interest would either be people who just clicked your profile but didn't listen, or listened to maybe the first 3 minutes and then stopped listening. So it would be, those are the kind of people who are interesting but didn't really consume. Right? So people who consumed listened to at least, usually there's, I don't really remember, but on Spotify, it's usually some sort of percentage. So if they listen to up to 25% of your episode, whether if it's 10 minutes or an hour, however long your episode is, depending.
Right.
So they would say 50% means that they actually consumed the content, less than that, or however much. But that is, I think, the kind of math that they do to understand if you're actually consuming or if you clicked out, or if you were just interested, for example.
So how do you get, where they have the biggest figures, people you reached, and then people who consumed is the lowest, okay? How do I increase, it says here, the number of distinct people have seen your content on Spotify. So how do I get that to help get that to convert to people who consume?
That is
They
the
haven't
whole
even
idea of
opened it up.
conversion. Yeah,
What's that?
that's the whole idea of conversion. So it's the idea of I think it's called like so is that like the big number theory? Is that thing?
Right.
Yeah, so the more you expose your content to people, the more likely there's more people to listen.
So it's a
So
numbers game, is what you're saying.
exactly, it's a numbers game. So if 100 people found your episode, then at least 5 would listen to it. But if 1,000
Right.
people were exposed, then more people would listen. And
Right.
that is the
Okay.
whole idea of marketing. That's the whole point. That's why marketing is such a big and important part of creating this brand and this audience and community. So we want to reach as many people as possible in as many different platforms as possible. So there's more and more chances that people hear us and want to be a part of this group. And that is why we're trying to push as much content out as possible. So we can use either the actual episode as content, meaning we take the episode, especially if it's videotaped. Hopefully, I'm hoping that you guys video your recording. like, and not only just audio, but we take that piece of content and then we can cut it up into pieces and then just show a highlight or show the interesting 30 seconds or whatever it is and upload that as a piece of content. This is why content creation is so important, because we use this content as a marketing strategy to bring people in and have them eventually listen to our podcast.
So actually, Freddie's podcast is an audio podcast. So for that, it's more difficult to make clips and shorts.
Yeah.
And it's an audio one and not a video one.
Definitely. Freddie, wait, do you not record yourself?
I record myself, but it's an audio.
Only audio.
Only audio.
Would you be open to recording yourself on video?
I would. I don't know if there's an upside then, because especially on Spotify, it's going to be audio anyway.
On Spotify, it's only audio.
I thought
But
you
then
could
What
get
would be the
video
upside
also on Spotify.
what would you recommend is the upside of doing a video? Because again, I'm not interviewing a guest. It's just me in my office.
still, definitely, because if you record yourself only on audio, there's not much that we can do when it comes to content to use it further on other platforms like YouTube and LinkedIn, which you already have.
Right.
So these kind of platforms, these two other platforms that you have are not being used to like the extent that they can. Rather than
Right.
if you just put your camera up and film yourself while recording exactly the same episode, exactly what you planned, just have it recorded. You can take that piece and then use it on your other platforms to hopefully bring more people in to listen.
I have a question. I got stuck trying to get Riverside to upload my video that was taken from my phone. So I had to download it onto instead of, let's say, a Zoom interview, which I've done, and I haven't tried that on Riverside, but I just find it so much, it's certainly easier, I think, than getting it from your phone onto your computer or upload. I got to 0%. I wrote to them. They gave me
Wow.
how to handle it. My son helped me, and he's this genius about technology. It didn't go anywhere, basically. What I'm finding is like, how much time, besides that technical difficulty, is this all going to be taking like 5 hours a week? Or is it going to be like, once you get the hang of it, it's like an hour?
It's usually once you get the hang of it. I mean, it obviously takes less and less time. Definitely, there's aspects of technical issues that we do need to get to know, just like we need to understand phrases as well and different. So also when it comes to the tech stuff, definitely it's things that we need to get used to. We weren't born into an environment where there were cameras and smartphones and super high quality technical microphones and stuff like that. We just need to get the hang of it. The new generation can do it like so easily and so automatically, but it's something that we need to learn and adjust into. So yeah, so definitely just, again, it's all trial and error. Just try again and see, understand, do like maybe a test recording before and see how that works. And then just find the easiest way you can to upload, because I know it is a heavy piece of content that needs to go from the computer to the phone or vice versa. So yeah, that can also take time. Yeah, that can definitely take time. I don't know if there really is a solution to that. I know that any way to transfer a file would probably take time, but I don't know if I'm the one to ask really. So if Zev was here, then he'd probably give you a better answer.
One other question that is, I don't know if Zev covered it, if I was there at the time when he said it or not, but is there like a good microphone? I'm doing it now with my either Zoom or with my phone, which is a very good microphone, but I'm not doing with additional microphones and stuff like that. Is that something that I should really consider?
It really just depends on the outcome. As in, you can try using the microphone that you have and seeing the quality of the video or the episode that comes out of it, and then just see what you think.
I think that if I knew what else I should be getting, then maybe I would consider it, but I just don't even know where to go because there are a million things out there.
I agree. I know. I definitely think that Zev would have a better answer to this.
So I wouldn't mind if maybe you could tell Leslie and then like post like the technology that we could be considering.
And also, Liat, I do also have a question. Before I just ask the question, do you want to just mention for those that are listening to the recording, the email address again, if anyone has any questions?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I'm going to write down my email address. So you're more than welcome to ask me anything and contact us. Ask me or ask Zev. And yeah, and we're more than happy to answer any questions, and we're available for anything that you need. So this is on our chat right now. Yeah.
Okay, and then I will actually just read it out because there are many that are watching the recording and not here originally. So it's Liat, as in Liat, at israelstory.org.
That's right.
So I have a question for you, which follows the issue about trying to get a perfect or maximize our podcast with not taking so many hours of the week. So one thing that I find takes up a lot of time for me is the issue about captions and transcripts. Now, according to my searches that I've done on AI, yes, it gives our podcast more views and people stay for longer if we do add captions, because many people, I know sometimes with me, if I'm lying in bed just watching and listening to a video, I'm actually reading the captions with my volume off. Okay. So
Absolutely.
I know that is meant to be the way to go, to add captions for every single podcast. So some I have done and some I don't do. So that is the one thing. The other thing is also within the episode, in terms of when you do add captions, some people, when you look at their recordings, you see the transcript. In other words, at 1 minute, 10 seconds, this is what we're talking about. So I haven't added that in my the YouTubes, for example. I think that's only relevant for YouTube, if I'm not mistaken, not for Spotify and maybe for Apple.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
How important really is it? And does it really make a huge difference in terms of the number of views, how long people actually stay on your episode, and gaining new followers?
I'll be honest, and just like you said, it's more convenient to you when there are captions. So definitely captions is something that works very well and gives and brings just more of an audience when there are captions. What I did right now was just show you my last slide, or the one before the last slide, which is a slide for you to use on tools. So here is just a list of tools that you can use to help you make things easier. So when it comes to captions, for example, you can use Canva or you can use CapCut, which do automatic captions, and then you can just fix them quickly. When it comes to creating content and that taking up too much of your time, I can suggest scheduling and planning your content a week in advance. So I have a list of apps and different websites that you can use to help you see the full week and schedule in advance, a whole week in advance, rather than every morning uploading and not forgetting to upload during the afternoon, because that's when your audience, whatever it is, you can schedule in advance and automatically these apps will upload the content for you, which is an amazing tool. I use them all the time and I really recommend. So that can maybe really be very helpful for you, as well as Meta Business Suites. Whoever uses Facebook and Instagram, there's Meta Business Suites where as well you can plan ahead all your content, and that can really just take some time off your hands rather than dealing with it every day or multiple times.
And also not only taking time, but also showing us when our followers are mostly online, because I know most of us just post when it's convenient for us. However, 100%. If you use a strategy to post when our viewers are online, then we'll get more interaction, and that helps the 100%. Whole algorithm too.
Which is why one of the tools I gave you is under Analytics and Insights, which is the top corner, where you can actually go on these websites and analyze all of your content and find out where did you get the most likes, where did you get the most content, where did you find the most views, what piece of content you uploaded got the most views, and then you know like how to navigate your page and what you need to be spending more time on and what you can just not need to do anymore. So this is
piggyback on what Freddie asked before. How many people is considered good? You know what I'm saying? I know you'll have these big names out there, it's 10 million or 10,000, 100,000, but what's reasonable without being, I don't know, like taking the marketing up like many notches?
No, that's actually a really good question. And to be honest, there's never really an answer because at the end of the day, it really just depends on you and how much time you have on your hands. If eventually this platform is specifically just made to grow your brand and you've reached a point where you have so many clients, you're fully booked, then it's done the job. And then
I
it
got
will
a client
keep going.
from this,
Amazing. That's
from
the
my,
whole
yeah,
point.
like
That
2
is
weeks ago.
exactly the point. So if you reach a point where you set yourself a goal, you want to be fully booked all week, or some people want to group meetings and they want to have at least 200 people joining them, whatever it is, but it's the goal that you set for yourself and for your brand. And every brand works differently and has different goals. So if you've reached your goals, that is enough. You don't really need to reach 1 million followers or 500,000. Like the number doesn't mean anything. If eventually all you have is the time that you have to offer and 500,000 people is too much, then it's not really what you need. You just
Right.
need to grow your brand and you need to feel like you are that like what you are, like what your goals are being fulfilled, then that's amazing. That is exactly what this platform is for. There's never really one goal. Everyone has a different goal, and these platforms can literally open the doors to anything that you want to do. So just move forward, be consistent, take as many tips as you can from here, and just keep creating content, create your brand, really figure out what your identity is, your brand identity is, your brand story, your audiences. Understand their needs and give it to them and just keep feeding them and then just go back to analytics, see how you performed, what content worked, what did they love, what do they need, what questions are they asking, and then give it back to them and then just go on with this loop and you'll see how you'll grow and grow. And obviously, whilst your platform grows and your following grows, then your brand grows as well. People come to you with questions, people come and then they need consultation or whatever it is. And then that's just how this whole cycle works. So I have just one last slide, and this is a cheat slide, which I don't want you to take too much into account, but this is a cheat slide that shows you the secrets of the algorithm of each of these 4 platforms, what is most important to each platform. For example, for TikTok, watch time matters. So they care mostly about how much time people spend on your video. Instagram, for example, don't care that much on how much time you dedicate to this video while watching it, rather than saves, shares, and engagement. Instagram is more about community, about talking, about being interactive. YouTube is mainly about watch time and retention. So this is a cheat slide to show you what is most important to every algorithm. Again, it's not your Torah. You don't have to follow it and make sure that you create content specifically for each. Obviously, each platform needs specific content, but don't follow this slide as in, if it's not a video, I'm not uploading it to Instagram. That's not the point. It's just to give you a tiny insight on the algorithm, just to understand what each platform needs so you can use it as an advantage moving forward. And this is the last slide. If you have any more questions, I'm happy to answer. I wish you guys the best of luck. Thank you guys for joining us and for listening. And I hope that you've learned something and that we could answer your questions and maybe help you move forward with building your brand. And we're always here. We're always available. We're happy to hear from you and to be in contact and see your progress, hopefully in the future. We'd love to hear from you guys in the future as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Liat. Thank you to Liat, Toby, and to Zev Levi from Israel Story for being a part of this fabulous series. I've certainly learned a lot, and I'm sure many of you have. For those of you that weren't able to join us live, there are many of you that are watching the recording. We hope that you've taken a lot from this as well, even if you weren't directly here to ask your questions. So remember that Israel Story is here, and I am here to answer your questions, even following the series. We've mentioned their email address, and I will be sending you, for those that signed up for this, a reminder that these recordings are only going to those people that signed up. So a reminder that Israel Story also offered a fabulous bonus To those who did join, I will be sending out the email with the recording link too, so you'll be able to see what the bonus offers are, and you're welcome to take advantage of any of the things that they offered you to advance yourself, to advance your podcast. So thank you once again to Israel Story for being a part of this in collaboration with the Israel Networking Hub. I wish all of you much success in your podcasts, and let's stay together, follow each other's podcasts, and help us grow our audiences. Thank you again, Liat, who was our presenter for today. Stay safe, and I will send this recording out as soon as I've edited it. Yes, I've also learned a lot about editing tools and things to do while being in this podcast. So it'll be sent to you once edited. Have a great day, and thank you again for being part of this amazing series. Bye-bye.